Gentlemen, we're going to be starting here in a minute. We're just letting all the YouTube notifications go through. I see Andy. Man, it's been a while. My UK tanker brother up there. And we got Prep Ham Paul. We hung out all weekend doing the winter field day thing. It was fun. And we got Cooley. What is up? And I saw Mark in the house. And I thought I saw Wayne. Oh, I have to go down here. There he is. Wayne is in attendance. I knew I saw him. What's going on with everybody? Hope you all had a safe and fun winter field day. Let's go ahead and get it going. I am gonna roll over. I'm turning down the mic, and you know what that means. Oh, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Frank KG5AHJ, and let's kick this off right by playing. Oh wait, there we go. Playing that awesome intro video. Quick shout out to all my Patreons who makes the show possible. You can support me by joining Patreon in the link below. And on to Tank Radio. There, I'm unmuted. What is up, y'all? We had a great winter field day, and I hope y'all did too. We made about 350 contacts. It was so much fun. That video's dropping tomorrow, and you just hang out with us as we hung out and did winter field day. It was so much fun. We did 7 different bands with 4 stations. We were indoor the whole time because it was cold outside and drizzly, and no one wants to play radio in drizzly weather. So we played it all inside, and it was fun. And there was a lot going on. So go ahead, check out that video. It's dropping tomorrow. Let's just go to the rundown real fast. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters and YouTube members. I can't make this channel without y'all support, and all of y'all are amazing, even ones that you're watching right now. I appreciate it so much. Buy me a beer and super chats are active, and of course stickers. I have stickers over on Jason's webpage, and I've been meaning to put all my stickers and show y'all the awesomeness of it, and that's probably going to be down the line here in a bit. The tank pads, I think we tweeted about them recently, but the Tank Radio mouse pads over on Corky QRP's website are amazing. They're beautiful. And of course, Gigaparts. And Gigaparts is has 5% off of select items. There is a link in the description to get to it, but you can get 5% off on Gigaparts by using Tank at checkout. Use Tank at checkout and help support me, Tank Radio. And finally, the audio podcast. The audio podcast is released twice, no, more than that. It's double because I have two live streams. It's 4 times a week, and that means that there is 2 audio podcasts that is released that is not on YouTube. So if you want to hang out and just hang out with us and have some fun, and we recorded one this weekend with all the Texas hams present, and it's a blast. We had a blast. We had a cigar, and we had some fun. So that audio podcast probably releasing in a week or two. So search Tank on any podcaster app and you'll get me. All right. We have a awesome show planned for y'all today. I'm going to bring the guys on here in a second. We're going to be talking about where it is there, unmuted this time, ASL, and that stands for AllStar Link, and we're just going to do a deep dive into technology, and I can't wait to learn out all the cool things. So without further ado, I'll bring everybody on. How's it going? How are y'all doing?
We're awesome here.
Good. Hey, good evening.
So thank you for joining Alan, Pete, and Jason. I can't wait to get into it. But before we get started, Scott, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good, man. Glad to be here.
Glad seeing you, man. You needed to get out this weekend and do some winter field day. Maybe just jump on the radio a little bit. All right. I just want to say thank you, Jason. Jason Lockwood, man. I appreciate the $20 super chat. You are amazing. I thank you again. There's no drinking this time because we're keeping it high class for our guests. Yes.
I'm pretty sure everybody in here drinks.
I don't know. Where's my beer? I think we're going to be going.
Well, we can make it one of those podcasts. Well,
that's all right. No, yeah, I'm not sure the local cops would like that me sticking in my truck with a beer.
Yes. Let's go around the room here real fast and just introduce yourselves and what you help with the AllStar Link project. We'll start at the top. Alan.
Oh, good evening, everybody, or whatever time it is that you're watching. I'm one of the members of the development team on AllStar, and been doing this for a little over a year, having myself a blast and trying to help out.
Thank you for joining. I can't wait to get into it. Jason, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing all right. Good evening here from the East Coast. I think we're representing a big swath of the country tonight. I've been working on AllStar Link might be coming up on 2 years now. I'd have to go back and look at it. Alan and I both do a whole bunch of different stuff, so it's hard to point to one particular thing that we're working on at the moment. So
awesome. I can't wait to dig into it with you too. Pete. I apologize. How are you doing, and what's your role?
So I'm Pete, WI6H. So I'm the president of AllStar as a corporation, and sort of the overall sort of caretaker to make sure everybody gets what they need and things work well enough to keep all the customers happy. But so it's kind of like keep the wheels on the bus in every area, but not at all what these two guys do. It's all
well, we all need our managers to help smooth out the stuff that us developers don't want to do. And I can tell you is anything admin, and that's what my boat is. I am, let's just say I am a C++ developer for my job, and I write code for a living, so I know a lot about this, or at least just coding in general. And the one thing my managers always say on the yearly reports about me is, you're great, you're awesome, but man, can we get you to do your time cards on time?
We need the status updates for the grants and things. That's what we think. So yeah.
Thank y'all for joining me. The first question I kind of had is, what kind of got started? How did this project get started? What was the main drive behind starting our AllStar Link?
So essentially what happened is in the early 2000s, a very, very smart guy, Jim Dixon, who was sort of a phone freak, hacker, radio guy, came up with the idea of using the Asterisk open source telephone system as a repeater controller. And the concept was he was using basically conference bridges. Like, so if the idea was that every repeater would get an extension, and that if you wanted to connect the people together, that would just create these conference bridges, just like you would a conference bridge on a telephone system. And so they added the functionality of carrier detect and push to talk and that within the original AllStar framework. And it sort of got single-handedly kind of born then. I got involved probably 3 years later than that, where Jim also created a thing called it's actually a thin client, an RTCM. I'm forgetting what it stands for. Maybe someone can jump in. That allowed an inexpensive way of doing voting, so you could have multiple receivers, and then you could also do simulcast transmitters. And at that time, I was working in the San Francisco Bay Area on a multi-transmitter site 900 megahertz system, and this thing was really kind of the only way you could do that inexpensively at the time, and just got involved in it, testing it, giving feedback to Jim, recommendations on the firmware changes on the RTCM. Unfortunately, Jim passed away in 2016. I think that's right. Maybe live. I hate to. Someone's going to correct me, but and then a number of people kind of took up, picked up the reins on keeping the development going and keeping the actual network up and running. Of note would have been Tim, KD6AWP down in Orange County, and some other folks, and they sort of volunteered themselves to keep this running for that long. And when I started, there were probably a couple of hundred nodes, and then that went to a period where we got about 4 years ago, where we got to about 2,000 nodes, and then at that point we were having a lot of stability issues with using the phone system for the back end and the front end. So about 6 months, maybe a year prior to that, we started commissioning and experimenting with replacing the management or the back end part of AllStar with something much simpler, a very simple, just a thing that would emulate the phone system and accept the registrations. And essentially, that's the system we have today. It's telephone system software at the repeater sites and at at the hotspots, and a very simple piece of software from a registration point of view that emulates a phone system to handle like who's logged in and what nodes are what, and then a whole bunch of other things that feed off of that, which these guys can get into a lot.
So kind of technically, it's kind of dial into a node or a room that is kind of managing all the voice over IP addresses.
Yeah, it's a direct. What we provide as the AllStar network is sort of a directory services for the phone system. So when you make a phone, when you actually connect two repeaters together, it doesn't go through AllStar. We're just giving you guys who have nodes out there the address of the other parties and what's required to connect them each other. So it's almost like a directory service more than it is like it's not like a Brandmeister or everything goes through. It's sort of more of a you guys, we just point you to each other and you guys have at it directly.
Yeah, I think a good way to explain it might be each individual AllStar server node is simultaneously a client and a conference bridge all on its own. All right, and you can have multiple things talk to your conference bridge, and your conference bridge can call other conference bridges. So that's sort of conceptually probably the best way to think about it if you want to stick with the phone concept.
I think that's one of the issues we all have to remember when we're playing with this is that when you're using it, it's like a repeater controller, but when you're fixing it, you're working on a phone system. It's definitely, it's like, I think that's and how it's architected is very much extensions and conference bridges and terminating calls, and it's very much of a phone. You end up being a phone network manager in your mind. You have to kind of think of it that way.
And from what I saw, I was reading through your webpage last couple of weeks, trying to get more familiar with the project. This is building off of let me rephrase that. This is forked off of the Asterix project.
Well, it's not technically forked. It's using current asterisk now, right? That was sort of our big accomplishment of 2024. It's a module. So it's not a fork of asterisk where we have to maintain all of it, right? It's a module, actually it's a set of modules that gets compiled along with asterisk that it's an integration with, but the module tracks asterisk, like rather than being intrinsically tied to asterisk like it used to be. We're trying to be very conscious about the fact that it's a module that will follow asterisk as it gets upgraded over time.
And I'll comment that sometimes pulling that stuff out is what does gives up hard. It's very difficult to modularize everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that pain. Integrating open source projects. We want to use this. Oh, well, we can't use it that way. We just got to start tweaking it and then keep taking the updates as they come. That's always fun. We kind of got into this a little bit already, but what is some of the kind of a high architect of ASL, and what's kind of the main components that you're using, and how does it kind of work?
Jason, you want to take that on? Or want either guys?
Yeah, do you want me to talk about the front end client part or the back end part?
Let's just
which
do
part
like a surface level peek at both if we can.
All right. So there's a couple terms that we want to make sure that we use correctly when we're talking about an AllStar system, AllStar Link system. There's a server that, regardless of the hardware type that is making it up, is the underlying operating system base, the Linux running asterisk, right? That's the server. Then your server has one or more nodes associated with that server. And a node is the easiest way to think about it, is almost like a short telephone number. As a matter of fact, internal to the module, the module is called AppRPT. Inside the module, that's actually exactly how it works. It's considered a telephone extension on the system. And you then associate a node with a particular type of audio or what's called a channel driver in asterisk. And there's two types of USB connected audio devices. There's a couple of remote protocols, RTCM being one of them that Pete was talking about. And then there's essentially a what's called a pseudo node, if you're familiar with people who run AllStar hubs, where it's just for other nodes to connect through, something that's more highly available with better internet, things like that. You can even have a hardwareless node. It's called a pseudo node, or a hub is what we normally think of them as. That all can connect together and really creates ad hoc topologies. I mean, you can connect in all sorts of interesting ways. So on the back end, there's a couple different things. One is there's the primary sort of altogether what would be considered the directory service, registration service, the node connections database, sort of all of the pieces that you need for a node to find other nodes, right? Now, you could hand configure all of this, right? And there are people out there that do that, private nodes, or they want to have a completely disconnected system. That's all possible. In general, people want to talk to other people, not just their own things. And that's where each of the that's where the directory services come into play. So there's a traditional LAMP type stack, that's sitting there, that's using a bunch of different common technologies, HA proxy, Nginx web server, PHP, Node.js, a fairly typical stack on like that on the front end. There's also some of the support infrastructure, like the community server. There's a wiki. There's the manual site that we use. There's some back end pieces that we have in terms of availability monitoring and performance monitoring. Some of those kind of things that sit in the back end. That's where it exists today. We're in the process of trying to consolidate stuff down to be fully integrated with AWS. With one of the possible goals is using more of it as a service architecture rather than running a bunch of Linux boxes. The trick there is we don't want costs to go through the roof, right? Because there's lots of, like, we use Cloudflare, free tunnels right now, or free CDN right now, which works fairly well, but we have some interesting quirks with it. There's an Amazon version, costs a little bit of money. Like, those are some of the things we're trying to figure out right now, is as we move services and upgrade and make things, because we have a bigger community than ever before, right? So scalability is starting to become sets of questions, right? And that's what we're trying to figure out. What's the responsible path for some of those things? We don't want to go out and increase our IT bill to 10 grand a month and the project's out of money 6 weeks later, things like that. So we're trying to be pretty judicious and reasonable with how all those costs get incurred. So
I understand, and then going to the AWS services, that can be an expensive endeavor to spin up at the beginning and get going. There's a lot of learning curve also working with that technology stack. Kind of talking about technology stacks, what is the developer environment if someone wanted to get started and trying to compile this on their own? What is the technology stack they have to kind of get set up and going?
I'll punt some of that to Alan because he's done a lot of the work in the
I was going to say,
in
Well,
the manual.
we need to share time.
Yeah. So
One
there's
thing that we've done with AllStar version 3 is it's all open source, and all the source code that we have is sitting on GitHub, and you can go over and download, view everything or download it. Most things are easy enough to go over and compile. Not all of it's documented as well as we would like, and you have to go jump through a few hoops. But we're building this and creating Debian packages with all of this, and we're not hiding how we're doing it. So it's all out there. Was it a learning curve for me to figure out how to put all the pieces together? Yes. And in the past year, the way that we've been building things has actually changed. We used to do it one way, and then it was another way, and then it was another way, and we finally getting things honed down to the point where it's fairly easy to put the pieces back together again, which makes it easy for us to go over and make changes because we don't have to spend hours and hours and hours, generating new packages. It's wave your hands just the right way, push the right buttons, and then it's all done.
Yeah,
and I do, hats off to Jason because he did a lot of the work in putting all that together. And I looked over his shoulders, remotely, and says, "Okay, I know what you're doing. This all makes sense. I can take it from here." And he's kind of letting me run with that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's using GitHub integrations and GitHub Actions. One of the things we wanted to make sure as we moved into AllStar Link 3 was that we had a controlled, testable way to roll out the software, right? So there's actually in the development stream, we actually have 3 package levels. There's a develop package, there's beta packages, and then there's production packages. If you look on the community forum where we announce changes, you'll see statements of these have been released to beta. If you want to try it or you think it fixes something, then we have a tool that actually lets you very easily switch to the beta stream. You can get it, see if it fixes your issue. eventually, if those are stable, we move them to main or production. That
Mhm.
happens there. But all of the there's probably what, Alan, is it nine packages, I think, total in Debian that comprise an AllStar Link 3 system. And we did that on purpose. It gets a little confusing for the uninitiated, but we did that on purpose so we can fix parts of the software without having to do a full upgrade of everything.
Yeah.
And then all of that is built automatically with GitHub runners. They're all pushed automatically into the package repository, and then we can promote them to production when we're ready. And we can say, okay, what is the exact version of this component that you're having problems with?
Mhm.
Let's fix it. And
Yeah.
then you can hand compile it too.
I will chime in on one thing, because we get questions about this all the time. People will say, what version are you running? And it's not a simple answer of it is one version that will go over and tell you everything, because we've got 9 different pieces, each with its own version number.
Ooh.
So we kind of have an Uber version number that we tell everybody about, but it's one of those things that people just get confused about, because it's like, well, am I running 3.2 or 3.3 or 3.7, or it gets confusing there. We haven't found a solution for that.
Just pitching ideas. Just if you can write a command or a subroutine that just parses all the little submodules and just a nice printout on the screen, like you're running this and with that and with this and with that with this.
Oh, we have that.
Oh,
But which number do you pick out of that list?
oh, well, for the overall arching release number.
We just say just copy the output of this screen into your request, and we'll figure it out.
So
for
the
you.
overarching number, I put that to a project manager. Pete could figure that one out, right?
They've never asked me to do that. I would gladly, but I've never been asked to take care of that.
Pete, we'll put Pete in charge of numbering everything.
Numbering everything. Yeah, there we go.
I love
My
it.
problem with that is as the middle, as all the little updates happen, you get way too many dots. They're like 3.7.2.4.
Well,
we'd have to release 2 packages for every single change. One with the version number and one with the actual change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, one way I like to structure it at my office is the last dot is always the build number off the build machine, so you always can reference where did that package come from. That's how I like to set it up. But
Yeah, the version numbers for all the packages we adopted semantic versioning. So there's a major, a minor, and a bug fix, and then it's tagged with the packaging release and the platform it was built for. All of the packages are actually associated with a GitHub release tag. So from a code discipline perspective, whenever we cut a package, there's a tag that represents that exact build.
Excuse me. I never really got into the tagging it using Git. I know a lot of projects love them and they're generally accepted. I can't wrap my head around how they work.
Well, you need that if you want to go back and say what specific version of a file went with something. So it's really, the tag is just taking a snapshot of saying, okay, let's put this name with all of these versions of this file or these files.
Yeah, you can actually go back into the repository. Let's say we're talking about, there's a package that's just called ASL3. That's sort of the meta package. It has some of the core tools that we've written, and then it's the meta package way that you get all of the rest of the pieces that you need, right? It'll install asterisk and dotty and the different things you need. We can go ahead and say, I want to check out tag. You've got it pulled up there, 3.2.0-1. So you can actually check that tag of code out right where it was and see exactly what is in that particular set of software. So that's kind of the way we do that.
Nice. I personally, I accepted Git as our overlord, but they drug me kicking and screaming. Before using Git, I used Visual Studio, something
Source
City.
Safe. Oh, Team City.
Team City, yes, Team City, and I loved it so much better. But they drug me into the Git world, kicking and screaming. And I really use the tools and I understand the tools. It's just the last hurdle in my head is tagging and getting tags done right.
And that is a classic that is a classic holy war on the internet, right?
Hmm.
Do you tagging? Do you do branching? Do you branch and tag? Do you tag in branches, out of branches? I mean,
Most
pick
mostly
a pick one and
mostly I do branching, the branching strategy. So your iterations have branches or your sprints, depending how you choose your wording, and then your major release will have a branch, and then you have your main, and yeah, you just keep going in and out. That's how we don't use tags at my office. But
yeah,
if
and you probably don't use GitHub either then.
we have a Git client that we have to locally host.
Yeah, because like GitHub is very based around tags, not branches.
Hmm.
Branches are where you work on something and merge it back into your mainstream and then you tag it. That's how GitHub has chosen to implement it. There are other Forge type systems do it differently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Um, so I know we hinted on a little bit of it, but what type of languages are y'all is the main code base in, and what's some of the ancillary ones around?
So app repeat, which is the AllStar add-ins, that's all C code.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of the other projects, mix of shell scripts and Python and those are probably the biggies. Um, what am I missing, Jason?
I think we've gotten rid of everything that isn't shell or Python, to be quite honest with you, on the client side at this point. If it's too complicated for Bash, we write it in Python.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
got a
think
little bit
those
of
are the two.
JavaScript, sitting around in Almon.
Yeah, well, for website stuff, yeah, Almon 3 has a bunch of JavaScript for the web codes, but yeah.
But
But yeah, the core languages would be Python and
And
Bash.
we're just not going to talk about the back end.
No. Actually, that's all that's actually PHP and then Java, Node.js and JavaScript for the most part, actually. That's it's
that's
there's other untamedness out there, but the development language isn't one of them.
yeah. Don's correctly pointing out that y'all did not say C++. That is my wheelhouse. Oh, I
I
can
have
switch
not
the
seen it.
screen back.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Well,
that's. Go ahead.
no, I mean it's C because that's what Asterisk uses,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean that's just so the natural follow on of a GPL'd Asterisk, right?
Yeah, yep. Use the language of the main project. I can't argue with that. Even though they chose wrong, do it in C++. I just had to say it because of Don. Uh, um, and yeah, we're a little ahead of time where I wanted to be, but that's fine. We'll hang out here in a bit. Um, talking about the community here. We already mentioned that y'all have a community page. Do you have a Discord server?
We do not.
Nope.
Okay. Uh, there's
Yeah, we really, I mean, if you really want to get involved,
yeah.
I think that the community is the great place to start because you can get an idea of what kinds of problems come up, what sort of questions. A lot of people get involved by, sort of becoming over time have more asterisk expertise, and they'll answer questions for beginners, and then they get involved more with the crew. And I think if you want to sort of get involved with sort of like just literally the community, that community is the best place to go and kind of watch what happens and 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 see where you fit into how you want to participate, really.
Hmm.
And,
And
and that discourse community predates the existence of Discord by a number of years too. If when you want to talk about a trove of knowledge, so to speak, and then on the back end for the developers and leadership and beta testers and stuff, we actually use Slack.
Slack.
Yeah.
Interesting. That takes me back. I was so happy to uninstall Slack from my phone.
Well, of course, and I'm all of my other work projects are on Slack. So for me, Slack is just sort of normal daily life.
Yeah. They made it much more easier. The reason why I disliked Slack for the longest time was when you had to move to a new device, you had to authenticate each and every channel. There wasn't just one authentication for the account and to bring
Well,
them all in.
that's still true. I
That's
think
still.
actually that just means you belong to too many Slack channels.
Oh, I had one for the amateur radio club, and one for my
Yeah.
friends, and one for the work friends, and one for this, and they just kind of exploded. um, but Slack does have a lot of powerful sharing screens and other things that it does make sense. It does make sense, and I'm not knocking it. It's just it's not in my world right now. I did have and we did say how to get involved, but the other thing is if you want to help support the community in general, y'all have a donation page.
Yeah. So one of the challenges we have was initially this was uh, let's say 4 or 5 years ago. These were hosted at people's work data centers on a volunteer basis, or in people's garages, or at sort of less reliable colos and sort. So one of the decisions we made was to basically move these back end critical services to the cloud. And the downside of that is, of course, our expenses went way up. So, I think one of the thing that we talk about a lot in management of AllStar is really trying to figure out how to. I think that everyone I've spoken to say that AllStar is awesome and it's a core function of ham radio right now, and there's 10,000 nodes, but we don't particularly get a very high percentage of people that want to donate to us. And I don't know if that's just the nature of if we're not asking hard enough, or times are tough or whatever. But anything that someone could give us that sort of allows these guys to make better, sort of like network survivability decisions, which we prefer that. I mean, we'd prefer to have it be that it would take a very, very big act of God to get AllStar to go down. and mostly to fix that is money. I mean, I guess I can't, unless you guys have some other thoughts about it, but that really is where we're at. So we have a number of very, very dedicated contributors that come up through every year with substantial amount of money. We do apply for grants to do some development work and things, but the grants typically don't allow any use for operating expenses. So the kinds of things that, so generally, and I understand that they don't want to become, they want to have it be a project that you start, you do it, you finish. It's not like ongoing expenses. Also, they want to make sure that whoever they're giving grants to generally is a sustainable group. Like, it's not like the grant is what keeps it alive, right? It's just, they don't want to do that. So, so I would ask, if you love Asterisk and you join the community and see what's happening, you can volunteer, but you also can help it make it more reliable over time, and have us be able to, do more robust networking and things. If you could donate to us, we'd love that.
So I'm going to chime in on the other ways of volunteering. We need help with the development side, and if that's something where you're interested and have some time and availability, check out community, figure out where you might be able to go over and help and reach out to us. All the sources on GitHub. You can go over and say, oh, here's a bug that's been filed. If you can help us fix it, hey, we'd love that.
Hey, Jason, can you talk about how many community sourced bugs have come through? Like, where someone we didn't know who they were just showed up and said, "Hey, look, this is." I haven't been keeping track of that, but I know it's happened. So
it happens.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'd like for it to happen more. Usually we get the people saying, it's like, I've got a problem, go fix it.
Fix it. I've heard that pop up, but I never kept track of how often that was occurring.
Or the other one is, I have a problem and I'm just going to complain about it. As could you at least file a bug report?
Yeah.
Please file a bug report for me.
Yeah. There's really two of those kind of streams. One is the this isn't working for me. Oh, well, you're doing it wrong, right? We have to explain something. Yeah, but then there are people who trip into bugs. We defects. There's things we have to fix right now. We're trying to deal with an interesting audio artifact problem with some of the latest kernels. But not so long ago, we had someone who contributed a whole bunch of code in the audio path to deal with audio clipping and audio cleanup. Very, very unglamorous, honestly, bunch of math needed here kind of work that he did. He showed up. He said, "Hey, I want to improve the audio quality," and showed up with a bunch of code and fixed some stuff in a nice way. So
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And then
That was also sort of unsolicited too, Drish, right? That wasn't.
yeah, it was just
Yeah,
someone who showed up and wanted
Yeah.
to fix it.
Right.
And then we had another guy that sort of, he knew of a problem and he figured out how to reproduce it. And it's like, once you've got a way to go over and reproduce a problem, it's much easier to fix those.
Yep.
Well, those are the best kind of beta testers we can get. The guys that are like, I just kept at it until I could make it break every time.
Yeah.
I love
it. That's another way to help, just sort of on the real world technical side. I'm not dissing anybody saying, make a contribution. I make my contribution, but that helps keeps things running. But helping to advance the project, that helps it makes the project better.
No, and finding, I mean, more importantly than money, I would agree. I mean, finding skilled people who want to actually become developers and further this project and expand its capabilities that way, it's just unmeasurably valuable. I mean, we would not be. I mean, this is a volunteer thing. I mean, the fact of the matter is, all this, for large, not 80% of this is all just done by people who are ham radio people that just think it's cool and want to code away. I mean, that's
And the other thing that I'll throw out is you don't have to be a coder. If you can go over and write documentations like, hey, this is what I needed to figure out, and these instructions were wrong. It's like, help us fix that stuff. Help us fill in the gaps.
I really relate to that one as a developer. right into the documentation.
And you know what? And that's even a place where we've made that really easy.
Mm-hmm.
The main manual is all written in Markdown, which, if you've ever used just about any online forum in the modern times, and even if you have it, it'd take you 20 minutes to do a tutorial. And it's all self-generating into the website. You just check it in, and there's a publication process, and it rolls out.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's easy to get changes to market for the manual, so to speak.
So all those technical writers, get your thumbprint on AllStar and come help us.
Contributors are not just the developers. They need testers, they need beta testers, and people to help them document things and then put those manuals together and how to start it up nicer so it's not just developer speak. And a bunch of y'all will just glaze over trying to read that. I got a couple of questions here. When we were talking about kind of the architecture of the ASL project, one question from John here is, so the extensions are like a POTS line?
Not well, maybe not. So the way to think about it is a telephone number, right? So if you want to get ultra nerdy about it, a POTS line is two things. It is a physical circuit, literally a copper wire from point A to point B. And then inside of the switching at the central office where that line ended up, there was a number that's assigned to that line, right? When a call, even in your central office, when the call came through, it picked that number and you said, oh, I'm trying to get to, 555-1234. Well, your line in that substation was 555-1234. And the switch said, oh, 555-1234 is this line, pick it up, right? So in AllStar Link, it works kind of the same way, where there's you establish essentially you're establishing a trunk, a conference bridging trunk that then you say, hello, I am node. Like one of my nodes is 46018, right? Hello, I'm 46018, and I'm talking to you, 63011. Basically, it's basically that simple, right? And you can get into more complicated things like you can add. I saw someone in the live feed was asking about Ham Shack Hotline and things like
That
that.
was my next one.
Yeah, you can add it. You can add as a client to your node. You can add any SIP endpoint. So Ham Shack Hotline, Call Centric, VoIP.ms, anything like that. You can create a dial-up service to. Then that becomes an impersonation, so to speak, of that node, or you can assign it a fake number. Like there's actually a couple different ways to do it. It's pretty flexible.
Like
It
that's one of
depends
the
on
things I
what
did.
you.
One of the oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, it depends on what you want to do, not so much what we want you to do.
Yeah. So I mean, I have a number of SIP phones that are actually extensions on AllStar that just I use to talk on the radio from the desk. It's just like a SIP phone that plays the node out. You just dial whatever node you want on the phone, and off you go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, the POTS analogy is actually one that works for me. I just think of the node server is it's going to answer the call, so it's going to go off hook when it gets a ring, and then the speaker and the microphone is your handset, and whether that's the transmitter and the transmitter and the receiver on your radio, it is a telephone at the end. It's just a radio telephone instead of a old style. And instead of copper wire, it's the internet.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think that's about it. All I had here. Did y'all have anything else you want to bring up real fast? I also put the links to everything below that we talked about. Pete?
I was going to ask actually, my guys. Do you want to talk about any you brought up the term platform a couple times, but we really didn't talk about the different platforms and how you guys have to deal with them differently. Maybe is that a good quick topic?
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, there's you're talking about like the difference between the Pi appliance and the regular packaging.
Yeah, for example, the typical Pi person just burns a card and goes, and obviously the way I do it with Debian is to go get a package and build it. But I'm just talking about just like, do you guys? My question to you is really, do you have to kind of think about how you're going to deal with Pis versus non-Pi, distribution and management and code, and like is that something that just it's not that big a deal and it just happens at the end and it's fine, or is that something you have to think about?
It depends on it depends on what part of AllStar Link you're talking about, right? In terms of the core app RPT code inside of Asterisk, it's the platform is the platform, right? But we have put together what I think is a pretty nice appliance package for a Pi. And that's where we spent a lot of time figuring out a right way to do it, right? We're mounting different parts of the file systems as tempfs so that it's not being written to an SD card over and over and over again. Making sure that you can get to it. If you install the Pi appliance, there's a web interface. We're using a tool called Cockpit, which is a fully featured web administration console. We've tried to make it pretty nice for people who are less interested in running Linux and more of, I want something to just, I want to burn this. It uses the standard. If you can follow any of the hundreds of thousands of videos on YouTube about how to burn a Pi image using the Pi imager, you can make an AllStar node in about 10 minutes. We worked really hard to make it work just like all the directions on the internet for how to build a stock Raspberry Pi, because that's what people know, that's what people understand, that's what people want. So from that perspective, yes, there was a lot of packaging and thought that went into what makes a Pi appliance, but at the same time, you can also just be like, I have 3 Pis right now running it. I have an old laptop because we're testing this kernel bug, and then I've got at least 3 virtual machines in different clouds running 90% of the same code, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we've had requests to create an appliance for PCs, and it's on the to-do list, and we'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I start thinking about looking at that, I get diverted into something else.
Is it because there's a lot of Unix and Linux specific calls that makes it hard to try to cross-platform the code, or is there kind of another hurdle?
It's literally about repackaging. You have to so for a stock PC, you're really talking about repackaging the Debian installer.
Mm-hmm. Ooh,
I've got
yeah.
I've got so to be clear, when we're talking about an image, we're not talking about like a VPS image. Like that would be fairly easy to make, right? Here's a VPS image, slap this up in your VPS and
Mm-hmm.
poof, it'll just work, right? Well, there's a lot of people that use like the Dell 3040s, the little cube computers. There's people that use NUCs, things like that. Those are really full-fledged 64-bit PCs that need the full-fledged Debian installer to pick the hardware and the whatever you want to do about it. It's not that easy. Surprisingly, it's not that easy to add packaging to the installer. Like right now, we have, so it's like 5 steps to install it on Debian, but people are still asking for, I want to be able to, burn something, click a button, and have a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've started working a little bit on that. It probably will end up being more of a net boot type situation where it'll come built with something that'll bootstrap it after it starts. I think that's where we're going to go, because
That's an
rebuilding
interesting
the
thought.
installer gets tricky and isn't like I spent a whole weekend on it, and I never quite got it to boot consistently on UEFI and BIOS, because you have to support both.
Mm-hmm.
It turned onto the diminishing returns, and then I got pulled into something else, and
I'd
I
also
never
just be
got
curious.
back to it.
I'd also be curious just how many people are requesting that. I can't.
It's
I,
a
I'm
it's a small
surprised that.
There's
minority.
at least one
Yeah,
person a week on Community that talks about,
really. What? Because
Yeah.
doing an
they
Intel
yeah.
install and how do I get, Cockpit and the web
Huh.
page.
Well,
And,
no, but I mean, you could still do all the cockpit stuff and have it still be something you have to type manually. I mean, my point would be you wouldn't have to go as far as Jason's describing to get the cockpit stuff to work, right? I mean,
and we explain that to people.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, within a rounding error, you can install the appliance packaging
Mm-hmm.
and get the same experience. You just have to do it by hand.
Yeah.
We're trying to make it more
I'm
user friendly. That's just way down the list.
Maybe I'm exerting my management decisions. Like, we really want to do this. Seems like we have
probably one of the other things is I don't think we want to be in the business of trying to go over and tell people how to install Debian on whatever flavor of PC they have.
Mm-hmm.
No, I would agree. Yeah. Also, I would say that there for us as a management team, we sort of look at it like, if most people that are using PCs, I think, are probably more likely to build a repeater, have more complicated sort of things that are connecting up, and we want to make sure. No, my impression would be, if you're smart enough to build a repeater with a duplexer and a radio and all that stuff, maybe you should learn a little bit of Linux, to be able to install a package or two.
My 2 cents is, if you have some of that small unique hardware, Linux is more apt on running that easily, and getting it the right flavors and everything. You already has this super unique device, so.
Well, I mean, there is a customer base that we have that is just pure radio people that
Mm-hmm.
they don't really care about the computer, and the Raspberry Pi really works well for that. I mean, you basically, you're basically only worried about the radio, don't want to fiddle with Linux too much, and you just put it in, hook up your radio, and you're on the air, and we love that.
Mm-hmm.
But it is sort of, it does kind of bifurcate the market. We've got our sort of radio Raspberry Pi people, and we have our more, what we're forcing them to be a little more sophisticated on the PC side with more powerful machines.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Y'all have been amazing. Just a quick reminder again, if you're looking to help support the AllStar Link project, where is my transition here? I have like 30 of them. there go ahead and head over to the main allstarlink.org, and then they have a donate button which will bring you up to a donate page. Or if you want to get involved in the community, they have the community page that you can definitely jump in and learn all about it and how to get involved there. Y'all have been awesome and amazing. I appreciate you coming in and giving me your time and your Sunday. Thanks again. Do you have any last words, real fast?
Well, I just want to go ahead. Go ahead, guys.
I was just gonna say right now there's 10,220 some odd nodes online on the network right now.
Yes.
So if you're not using it, you can be 221 or 222.
I think I have a Jason's node number 34136. That is Jason's node number on Ham Radio 2.0.
And there is a bit of a hub for some people, that some of the support people that are on AllStar. There's a node that we have, which is 56789. And that
Nice.
is that's easy to remember. And there's some, you can jump on there. That's got Bob and some of the people that help with the support tickets and things.
I didn't know about that one.
Oh yeah, there we go. And then I'm really just want to emphasize, it's amazing how over the last 24 months or so, interest in this has built on the development side, and we've got a lot more people that are interested in it as far as making the product better, making it more reliable, making it more accessible, and it's beyond really what we've imagined could happen. If you asked me, 3 years ago, where we thought we'd be today. So it's both picked up sort of in the number of users we've had. It's gone from 2,000 to 10,000, and the amount of turnaround time on the improvements has increased 5 times what was going on before, 10 times what was going on before. So it's amazing. These guys have just really, put the pedal to the metal and done some amazing work and coordinating the other developers and really keeping the thing moving. And, it's been amazing. So I can't thank everybody enough.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us on.
No problem.
Yep.
No problem.
Great.
Good
Thanks for
stuff,
having
bud.
us.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
to do these deep dives. If there's something more specific y'all want to come in and talk about, maybe a future release that's coming up, and y'all want to talk about it, please hit me up, and we'll dig into it. I could go deeper. I was just trying to keep it top level so we didn't nerd out too much, but I appreciate it too so much. Thank y'all for coming on.
All right. Thank you for having us.
Scott, my man, I'm sorry we didn't really get to talk to you too much, and my co-host partner in crime today.
There's a lot of technical information that goes into these all-star things. I'm just kind of sitting back and trying to absorb it. So yeah, it was great meeting these guys, and like I said, I got to learn a little backstory on how it got started and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool.
Anything coming up on your channel? Any project specific you're working on?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. Working on it.
I can't wait to hear and see what you got coming down the pipe, man. Thanks for joining. I appreciate it too. Hang on, y'all. I'll be right back. And as always, I am Frank, Tank Radio, and I appreciate y'all coming and hanging out. I just want to give a quick special thanks to this should tell me. I lost it. Viewer activity. It should be there. It's not there. There it is, right there. Jason Lockwood, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it, and also thank you to W3CX, my new Patreon supporter. Thank you. You are amazing. And to everyone else watching, thank you for listening and also watching. I do appreciate it. I can't do this without y'all. And I had one more thing I wanted to mention. It's gone. I had it. Oh well, I'll post it on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. I'm there. All my latest announcements are there. Y'all are amazing, and as always, go forth and conquer. Say bye. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
A quick shout out to all my Patreons who makes the show possible. You can support me by joining Patreon in the link below. And on to Tank Radio.